Good evening. Today is Thursday, May 2nd, 2019. I now call this Board of Education work session to order. Mrs. Lane, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Begley?
Present.
Mr. Birding?
Present.
Mr. Hare?
Present.
Mrs. O'Neill?
Here.
Mrs. Shorter?
Here.
Mrs. Shorter, will you lead us in the pledge, please?
My pleasure.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mrs. Shorter. First item on the agenda is presentations and resolutions. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Birdie and members of the board. We do have 3 presentations scheduled this evening. Our first presentation is our Equity Leadership Team Student Participant Recognition. This time I'll turn it over to Mrs. Gentry Fletcher and Mr. Lawrence Jones. Lawrence serves as one of our co-chairs of our Equity Leadership Team.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, and thank you all for taking the time to honor our student participants in our Equity Leadership Team. I have a little write-up that I put together because I get a little emotional when I work with the students and see the impact that they have on the work that we do. So I'd like to just say that the students' names are Jabari Ashford. He's a junior, and he is here tonight. Jabari, you want to come on up? Maria Wynn, she's a senior, and she could not be here tonight. Deep Patel, he's a senior, and he also could not be here tonight. And last but not least is Madison Walker. She's a junior, and she is here tonight. So come on up, Madison. I'll switch that. I'd just like to say that their participation has provided us with an opportunity to view the experience of our diverse students from a different lens. We were able to adjust practices and staff development to include solutions to their concerns and their feedback. We are grateful for their participation and perspective, and I do believe that the adults in the room learned just as much from them as they did from us. I would also like to add that Jabari and Madison are both members of the AXO class at the high school, and each of them won gold awards in the recent regional competition. Jabari for drawing in the visual arts, and Madison in biology in the STEM category. They will be going to Detroit in July to present and compete with other AXO students from across the country. So that's a really huge deal. And they'll be at the NAACP convention, which is a national convention that they have every year, participating. So we're so proud of you guys, and congratulations. We have a little token of appreciation for your service. Do you guys have anything you want to say about your experience? Come on.
All I would want to say is thank you for the experience, and thank you for including me and listening to my thoughts on the community and Fairfield as a whole. And I'd also like to thank you guys for the Frederick Douglass and Susan B. Anthony Award that me and Jabari received at the recent award ceremony for the high school. So it was greatly appreciated, and it was extremely memorable.
Very nice.
Any comments from the board?
Very proud of both of you.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, I have one.
Mr. Hare has a comment. Mr. Hare?
It's rather fortuitous that I shared something with our board today, not fully realizing what was going to happen here. And the quote that I shared with the board was that he who only speaks to one generation is already dead. He who listens to only one generation is already dead. That came from a movie in which Frederick Marsh starred as the character William Spence, a pastor in One Foot in Heaven. And how appropriate that is. that if we don't listen to more than one generation, and that includes parents, kids, grandkids, we're not going to be successful. And so we appreciate your voice. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just want to say that I'm so proud of you guys. I've worked with these kids for a long time. I'm one of the coaches for EXO, and they did an excellent job. I'm so happy that you've been a part of the ELT team. You've showed so much leadership and growth, and I'm just very proud of you. I think Jabari also participated in the battalion and did a wonderful job there, got a scholarship. So they are definitely role models and examples for all of our kids here. Congratulations.
Great. Well, thank you all very much for coming in this evening. We're very proud of you. It's important that we get input from you so that the equity leadership team can take those ideas to make our school district better. So thank you for participating, and we wish you well in the future. Thank you. And at this time, if you would like to leave, you are more than welcome to. Got a whole bunch of things to do. Thank you, Mr. Jones, for your leadership. Have a great evening. Okay, we have plenty of great seats up front. Mr. Smith?
All right, thank you. Our next presentation is an elementary counselor update. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Miss Jenny Thompson, and I believe that she brought some friends with her this evening as well, and I will allow her to introduce her friends.
Good evening, Mr. Birding and members of the board. It is my unique and pleasant honor tonight to introduce our 3 brand new counselors for our elementary age students this year. We have Erica Green. Erica is at South and Compass. We have Amy Hauer. She's at East and North. And we have Brecca Russo, who is at West and Central this year. We are very excited about the addition of our elementary counselors this year, and these ladies are going to share with you some information about what they've accomplished thus far this year. And I also have 2 of our elementary principals. I have Carrie Gallo and Missy Muller to share their perspective on what it's been like with the addition of the counselors.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Hauer. I'm over at North and East. Just wanted to say thank you for this opportunity this year. I think for all 3 of us to be in the elementaries, I think all of us have really enjoyed this position, so thank you. So while each of our schools are very different and have unique needs, all 3 of us are probably doing one of these things that you can see up here on any given day. Our jobs are kind of like an administrator where every day is different. Some parts of our job are responding to the needs of the students in the building, but then there are also some proactive things we have planned. So I'll just start at the top, collaborating with teachers, administrators, school psychologists, liaisons, nurses, and families. Planning whole school events. This could be anything from Unity Day to Make a Difference Day to announcements, having students share things on the announcements. We have Red Ribbon Week, start with hello. We work a lot with Donna Martin on those events and celebrating differences. And of course, I probably should have started with this, but working with individual students and the students is our main priority. Individual students, one-on-one if there's a crisis, or if there's, sometimes students don't get along with each other. So we might have a couple students in our office or a few not getting along and trying to resolve that conflict. Some that have struggles at home the night before, parents calling and saying, can you check in with this student, this happened, or basically anything else on their mind that's keeping them from learning. Also, we are consulting with outside agencies if they see private therapists or our agencies come in and do small groups with some of our students. Visiting classrooms to provide whole group lessons. on topics such as social media, safety, character education, for kindness, those kinds of things, or anti-bullying, respecting others, those kinds of things. And then working as a member of a crisis team. Unfortunately, even in elementary, there are students that have self-harm, suicidal thoughts. So all three of us have spent time this year working with students that are having those thoughts at school and talking to the parents and having parents come and kind of being the first line of command with those situations, with the administrators obviously too. And then we also have small groups that we plan, a lot of times at lunch groups, to work on social skills or making new friends or new students that might not know a lot of people, inviting them to bring students to lunch. We have kids that sometimes have behaviors in the classroom where they're not learning. So if we need to work on handling anger and anxiety in the classroom, so we have small groups like Stress Busters, and then grief. I know some of the other counselors have done more with grief groups, and then we also work with Fernside sometimes that comes in and does grief groups. And then dealing with divorce, we've done divorce groups in the past. So there's a variety of things we're doing on any given day, and that's probably a summary. I have one more slide. Okay, sorry. Okay, primary concerns. I don't think this is in any order, but a lot of peer conflicts, a lot of someone's talking about me, someone did this to me, and they can't concentrate in the classroom until the conflict's resolved, and teachers might not always have time to sit down and do that. So a lot of peer conflicts, anxiety, behavior, changes in family dynamics, someone's incarcerated, someone changes homes, placement, foster homes, divorce, anger, stress, self-harm, suicidal thoughts, grief, someone in the family sick, passing away, social skills, getting along with others, those kinds of things. So we have quite a variety of things we do.
There are three primary ways that we are able to see students through a staff member referral, so teacher, administrator, even sometimes our educational assistants or our custodians will make referrals to us. We're all part of that team. Student self-referrals, which have increased, of course, as the years gone along and we've kind of established ourselves in the buildings, and then also parent referrals. After a referral comes in, the process is for us to kind of do a one-on-one needs assessment with the student, addressing the concern, and identifying what additional supports outside of the school a student might need, and we'll perhaps work with our school liaison to help secure those pieces. These are some of our wonderful partner organizations. Of course, St. Joe's you're familiar with. That's our primary source where we will refer for school-based counseling. We've worked with all of these different agencies in order to supply our parents and our families with the appropriate supports that they need. And as Amy mentioned, a key component for continuity of care is establishing relationships with them, making sure forms are signed so that we can communicate openly and effectively, so that if a therapist is working on a certain skill set at home or in the family, that we can reinforce that and carry that on as well at school. So these partnerships are amazing, and we couldn't do the work that we do without them.
So we would like to thank you for giving us this opportunity and having the foresight to know that we were going to need elementary counselors at with our Fairfield team. Because if you notice, our ODE, our Ohio Department of Education, they had a strategic plan, and that went into effect this year. And in that plan, they had 4 learning domains, and one of the 4 learning domains was about social-emotional learning. And that is exactly what our elementary school counselors are there to help with. It also goes along with our 10 priority strategies. If you look at priority strategy number 7, it talks about meeting the needs of the whole child. So it's not just about their academic growth, but it's also about their social-emotional growth. So we appreciate that you all had that foresight to know that that was going to be put into play this year, and it has really helped a lot with many of our students. Social-emotional learning is something that is so important for all of our kids to have in order to be able to be successful academically. If they are having a difficult time focusing, or if they're having a hard time learning those social-emotional needs, you will see that come out in many different ways in a classroom. They may have struggles with motivation, organization, self-management, focusing, cooperation, social skills, and problem-solving skills. And if they don't have those type of skills figure it out, then the academics aren't going to follow as easily. So with our counselors being able to provide those type of skills and strategy by having small group meetings or one-on-one meetings with the students, they're able to then focus on the academics so that we can start to close those achievement gaps.
And another step to address those social emotional needs is to identify those students through a social emotional screener that will be administered to the students. There's a significant need in the schools to improve efforts at screening the students. Some students are referred to us, like Brecca said, and then other students kind of fly under the radar a little bit, so we need to process to help them with their emotional and behavioral problems to identify them so we can screen their social emotional needs just as we do their academic deficits. Currently, 15 to 17% of U.S. children have developed a developmental disability, and about 20% have a mental health disorder at any given time. By age 16, 37 to 39% will have been diagnosed with a mental health disorder. And furthermore, children exposed to multiple adverse childhood experiences disproportionately require special education. They drop out of school, they get addicted to substances, have suicidal ideation or attempts. So early intervention is a great benefit to them, especially those with adverse childhood experiences. And to address that social emotional screener, we're happy to report that we have chosen a screener for next school year. We searched many screeners, did a lot of research on that, talked to several different companies, and finally decided on Panorama. Panorama is used by some other schools locally, as well as some schools in Columbus that have great reviews on there. So through this screener, we will be able to track students' progress. The data that it will provide us with some guidance on some lessons that they will need to help achieve that social emotional, the needs that they are going to require. Next year, our plan is to screen all of the students, and then we'll have a focus more on second grade as far as it comes to diving a little deeper with the data to provide those intervention supports, and then we will reevaluate after that time to see how we need to support or alter if we need to alter that in any way.
So being a district that's very data-driven, let's look at some data to see the impact that having the counselors, and keep in mind, it's only 2.5 days a week. So it's only, or if you looked at half day every day. So here's some of the impacts that we've had so far. Supported a total of about 4,300 students in grades K through 5 this year. 4,300 students, huge. Visited more than 170 classrooms for large group lessons. Counseled approximately 461 students in small groups, and that doesn't include the groups that we have come in from the outside. Conducted roughly 1,715 individual counseling sessions. So the impact is incredible, and again, that's 2.5 days a week. So it's pretty major. Another impact that we're seeing, looking at data, continuing, is the discipline data. And we're still getting used to having counselors, so I hopeful that this will even go down further, but it's pretty big now. Number of referrals that come into the office is down already this year, 786 referrals. Number of students actually referred is down by 160. Number of out-of-school suspensions down by 57. The number of students suspended is down by 24. And oftentimes, our repeat offenders are the ones that are getting suspended. That's the bulk of our suspensions a lot. So having the counselors involved in those cases and addressing the issues versus just a consequence is huge. So I'm not trying to look at the needs, so having that support there. So it's a big impact, again, in 2.5 days. So from an administrator, I thank you for having that foresight as well. I know Carrie did. It's huge impact in the office and allows me to get some things done and meet the needs of the students at the same time that we can't always help. So thank you.
They've accomplished a lot, haven't they? So while they have accomplished a lot, I did want to share with you a little bit of data around what the recommendation for school counselors is. So if you take a look at the red line going across there, they actually recommend that there be a 1 to 250 ratio, students to counselors. And then if you go across, you will see what we actually have. So nationally, it is higher. That's the next bar. That's over 400. In Ohio, we're a little bit better shape, not much, than the national. We're still 100 and a little over 400 there. Fairfield, however, climbs up into the 500s. The high school, though, our counselors felt that it was important that I break this down because we have traditionally had counselors at the secondary level. So the student to counselor ratio does get a little better when you look at our high school, creeps up a little bit more at the freshman and the middle school, and that last bar shows what our ratio is for our elementary counselors. So while we are grateful with the addition of those counselors, we wanted to make you aware of what nationally they are recommending, and we know we could do even more if we had some additional help. I wish I could have taken every one of you on a field trip to our elementary schools because it is just phenomenal when you walk in and you see the work that these ladies do every single day. They are being pulled, they have students, their doors are revolving. And so since I couldn't take you on a field trip, I decided to bring some folks to you. So I'm going to show you a video that shows some pictures of some of the work that they've done, as well as having some of our students and some of our teachers and administrators talking about the impact.
Students at Fairfield East Elementary wore orange today in honor of National Unity Day and in an effort to prevent bullying. Students were invited to sign a kindness pledge. They're also being encouraged to write positive notes to their classmates and say thank you and spread kindness. Mrs. Green did that, or this student no longer is being referred to the to have a counselor in our building. It has changed the building here itself. It has just changed the whole climate and culture of our building in such a positive way that I could have never imagined. So very happy to have a school counselor in our building. Hope to get her full time sometime.
Teachers and students. The students have really been very receptive to her advice and being able to go talk to her during their times of need this year. It's been good for the teachers, not only to have a colleague in the building to share ideas and thoughts with, but also to refer students to on an as-needed basis.
Our school counselor has been such an asset to our school. I'm the school psychologist, and we work collaboratively all the time. She comes to meetings with me if we have any social emotional concerns about students. She gives ways that we can help those students. She acts as an extra resource and will meet with them individually or put them in groups that she has already established that would benefit them. She does so many groups with students to help build friendships and help with conflict resolution.
Amy has worked hand in hand very well with me this year to help with our most challenging students. I feel like her presence here has definitely benefited all of our kids in many different ways. And I feel like it is definitely a quality person to have in every school because the needs of these kids, especially the emotional and mental needs, are definitely on the rise these days. So it's definitely helpful to have someone in the building that can help with those students.
Having a school counselor here in North has benefited us in so many ways. Not only does she help us with school-wide events, with anti-bullying, Unity Week, she's so proactive in having individual sessions with our students and group sessions, talking about friendship circles, how to be a friend, how to resolve conflict that may be going on in their scope and in their realm of the school day. She's been fantastic in making sure that she is that neutral person in the building that can help students share their thoughts and their feelings. And I firmly, firmly believe that once we are taking care of these social, emotional problems, we can truly get down to educating our students.
Questions that we can address?
Questions or comments from the board?
I have a question. Mrs. Green, I think you said that next year you'd be testing all the students, and then after that it would be just second grade. Is that what you said?
No,
I just want some clarification.
Next year it'll be, the plan is K through 5. But
K
as
through
far as
5, okay.
looking at the data and kind of digging deeper into it will be second grade. We hope to address them all, but like Missy shared, in 2.5 days sometimes it's still a little difficult. So we're gonna look more, our plan is right now to look more at the second grade data.
Okay, but it will all, through K through 5, will all go through that screening?
That is our plan, yes.
Awesome, okay.
Sure. Couple of things. One is the data that you presented, especially with the discipline and referrals, was very poignant. It's nice to capture in the video some nice things, but I know that's not the whole picture when you're sitting there having lunch and everybody's getting along and talking respectfully, that you can't put some of the more challenging issues in the video. You can always tell a lot about a person by looking at their professional daily calendar, and we would be overwhelmed looking at your professional daily calendar, and we're not going to ask for that because we don't want you filling out a calendar. We want you servicing kids. And it just so happens that I happen to share another thought with my colleagues today that's right along this line, and that is to help kids combat bullying, we need to help every student embrace their inherent worth and beauty, as well as grow in resilience and empowerment. And we saw the end result of that with Jabari and Madison tonight. So we want all of our kids to graduate to that level if they're not already there. So thank you for your dedication and hard work.
Other comments?
I would just like to say thank you as well. I think it's important to reach kids as soon as possible. So this is fantastic. This is definitely what our district needed. So Thank you so much, and prepare for all that hard work.
Mr. Bigley?
I totally agree. Mrs. Shorter is right. You know, the social emotional component from Principal Gallo to the video to almost every one of you is what you spoke about, and it is so important, especially now as we push it down all the way to the elementary level where we can make that impact, where we can first identify issues and then second start to correct them and change behaviors so that when we get to middle school or high school, they don't, explode and cause other issues. And, we talked about data-driven, and those numbers you shared were great, but if you can just even touch one young child and correct or identify an issue they're having because problems at home or some issue there, you've made a difference, and I appreciate it, and thank you.
I think it was interesting. I thought I saw a stat that said you had interactions with 4,300 students, K to 5, and we've only have 4,500 students.
Yeah.
So that's, the vast majority need the help, so thank you very much for that. Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much for your presentation tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great work.
I do have one question. Can we get access to that PowerPoint?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I will offer the same deal I offered the last group. You're more than welcome to leave if you'd like. You don't need to stay. Thank you all very much for coming this evening. Mr. Smith?
All right. Our next presentation is Strategies for Parents Preventing the Summer Slide. This time I'll turn it over to Mrs. Wildo, Mrs. Pospischal, and Mrs. Thompson again.
Thank you so much, Mr. Smith. I appreciate it. Again, I have brought some friends to assist me with this. As Mr. Smith said, Jenny Thompson, our elementary curriculum coordinator, is going to assist, and Katie Pospischal, our secondary curriculum coordinator, is going to help as we talk about some strategies for parents to help us in preventing the summer slide. So we will get started. So first and foremost tonight, we're going to hit three things. We're first going to talk about what is the summer slide from that end of things so that everybody's talking about the same thing and making sure that our parents understand what that is. So we're going to give you a definition. Then we're going to talk about what parents and families can do to prevent it from that end of things. And then lastly, what opportunities exist for our students here in Fairfield to get involved with over the summer. So a summer slide is very typically just a phrase used for that loss of learning that occurs over our summer break from that end of things in very simple terms. Over the years, studies have just shown where we've assessed kids, and I say we being the educational world in general, at the end of a school year and at the last few weeks at the end of a school year and then the first few weeks at the beginning of the school year, and really just compared, mainly in reading and math, and there is some loss from there. They don't know the same amount of information in August that they knew in May from that end of things. So in general, here's some statistics for you. As our friends said here in the past, Missy was one that said it as well about, which is very data driven. So let's look at what that means. So typically, 2.6 months of math skills are lost over the summer, about 2 months of reading skills. And when we talk about this, it takes about 6 weeks of time in the fall to relearn this, or about 2 months to get our kids back on track from that, the summer slide. In addition, statisticians have been able to measure this as early as first grade. So as young as first grade, if we were to do that measurement in the spring of their first grade year to the fall of their second grade year, we've been able to measure that from an educational standpoint. And by the end of sixth grade, students who consistently experience that summer slide can end up being 2 years behind their peers just from this lack of exposure to educational content over the summer. And so if we just stopped there and thought, oh my goodness, there's this thing out there, the summer slide, and there's nothing we can do about it, and that's already going to put kids at disadvantages, then that would be the end of the story. Well, very fortunately, it's not. And unlike some educational issues that exist, this one is very clear and somewhat simple to do some things about. So that's pretty awesome that we have some things that can clearly prevent the summer slide, and that's what Jenny and Katie are here to share with us for the remainder of our presentation.
So this slide is actually demonstrating the gains that you can achieve if you just work in the summer on some basic things. So the bottom line there is showing students from low-income families who are not accessing books at all. The top line is actually our low-income students who do have access to books over the summer. And the one underneath that is our more affluent students and their progress. So this encourages us, because if we do encourage reading in some way, then we do have the ability to try to combat this slide just a bit. This slide here, and it's very hard to read, I'm not going to read it to you, it has a lot of statistics. Some of them are similar to the ones that Lanny shared, but it really is talking about the importance of family literacy. And if you as a family will embrace literacy in the form of reading to your child, reading with your child, having your child read to you, but also in other ways. When you go to the grocery store, reading the labels on the boxes, having students write in a journal, those kinds of things really can impact this summer slide.
You will notice that there is quite a theme in regarding trying to combat the summer slide, and that really boils down to a great deal of reading. Reading at all age levels. I know our high school students are very eager to go out into the workforce and get some money for gas and for all their extra things that they want to do. But they too can spend time each day reading. Some of the things that we suggest is make sure that you explore your local library and see all the offerings they have. In a few slides, I'll go into some specific summer programs that Lane libraries have for us. Encouraging your children to read between 4 and 6 books in a summer. Reading daily, I think that's something that us as adults need to embrace as well to continue on our educational journey. Having conversations with your students and your children about books and reading and what is going on. Writing in a journal and blog. They always say that reading is the inhale and writing is the exhale of a student. And so getting and encouraging our students to write more would be extremely beneficial. And of course, always making it fun. No kid wants to read a book that's super boring. And so finding things that are of their interest, going on quote-unquote field trips, whether it's to the grocery store. I know my little one, who's 3.5, loves to go to the grocery store. And so we make games out of everything that we do when we're walking up and down the aisles. And encourage the use of any educational websites like the Scholastic Read-a-Palooza Summer Reading Challenge to encourage our students to participate in reading. And this next slide talks about the Ohio Department of Education and what they have had advertised in the 2018 summer. They have not yet updated it for 2019. We are anticipating that it would be similar in nature in regards to what they had offered in 2018. Summer reading with Find a Book, Summer Math Challenge, and then always resources from Info Ohio, such as the Ohio Pre-K through 12 Digital Library and the Summer Beach Bags. And talking about Lane Public Library Summer Reading Program, this year it's called the Universe of Stories. This is open to all ages, and they're all invited to participate. We have the COSI Astronomy Academy, the Tween Tuesdays, Wednesday Fun Days, Teen Thursdays, and other scheduled activities. And all parents would have to do is visit the Lane Public Library website to find out a detailed example of everything that they have to offer. And at Fairfield City Schools, we have already sent flyers home with our students regarding the ice-based summer camps. the Logo Robotics and STEM Camp, and the STEM Studio that is open to our 5th through 8th grade students at Miami University Regional Campus. And then for our 9 through 12 secondary friends with our summer opportunities, in addition to everything that they can do outside of school, such as reading and math, we do offer summer school advanced credit for our courses in health, pathways, and PE. And then we also offer credit recovery courses for those students who may have not done as well as they had anticipated in the traditional classroom setting over the school year, so they can regain some credit over the summertime as well.
Our elementary students have some benefits as well over the summer. All of our elementary students that attend title schools and participate in some remedial reading through our reading specialist, which is every elementary school except for North, will receive 3 books of their choosing to read over the summer. Just packed those up and sent them out to the buildings, so the children get very excited about picking their 3 books to take home. And in addition, we have a summer tutoring program. Our summer tutoring program has become quite popular. We started out with a very small group, and each year it seems to grow more and more. Right now, our enrollment is at 167 students. And that is a little bit different than a traditional summer school program that you might think of. What we do is we have our students come for 2 hours twice a week. So they either come on Mondays and Wednesdays, or they come on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's by invitation, so it's our struggling readers that are invited to that. They can choose a time slot that's most convenient for the family. So we offer time slots from 8 in the morning until 7:30 in the evening. And they spend an hour working with a tutor, 2 children to 1 tutor in most cases. And then the second hour, we engage them in a variety of activities. We have some silent reading. We have them reading aloud to some of our paraprofessionals. They have some online learning that they do with some very engaging websites. And then we added a component a couple years ago for our ESL students, and it is working a half hour of that time on building vocabulary and building background knowledge for those students. So that is very helpful for many of our students. The struggle is finding our teachers and staff members that want to work until 7:30 in the evening. But so far, we've been lucky enough to be able to do that. So many of the things that we talked to you about today, you can get more information about, and that's the links on this ending slide here. And I encourage you, if you want to learn more or want to actually experience some of the opportunities that are available, to visit those websites.
You know, as I think about the things that we shared tonight, as Katie had said, there are a lot of themes run through there, and reading is the biggest one. Jenny spoke about literacy in general, and was it just last week we had a literacy expert, national literacy expert, Nancy Fry, come and speak to us and other educators from Southwest Ohio, and she spoke a lot about building background knowledge and literacy from a bigger picture, and whether that's speaking with children and singing to them and talking with them and just really keeping them engaged. And as the 3 of us were brainstorming just with our own children, all at different ages and from that end of things, just helping our parents understand too, you know, the ways to help their kids sometimes are much more simple than we realize. It doesn't have to be these great big camps and sending them off to all these things. The research will tell us 2 to 3 hours per week will prevent the summer slide. Just keeping them engaged in literacy activities is just 2 to 3 hours a week. And I know sometimes even that can feel overwhelming for some of our parents. So I'm always very grateful that we're able to send some books home with our struggling readers at our elementary level through our federal funds. So that's a great benefit, I think, to them. And I love that Missy's here as a principal to represent from that end of things. But I'm sure that our families, and I speak to our community when I say this, that if there's a need out there, to please go to our principals to ask for questions. They would come to us for resources, and we would work with them to help with that, because we don't want our kids to come back and have lost learning from that end of things. So if they have a desire and want some extra resources, that we're happy to work with them to find that.
Any questions from the board, comments?
I do. I have a comment.
Mrs. Short?
Thank you. Let's see. My comment is about iSpace, because these are wonderful resources. iSpace in particular, for those kids that have an interest in, STEM topics. The one concern that I have is really the entrance to participate, the price point. My kids have done it. It's a great experience. But there are some kids who are, their parents are not going to be able to afford it. Do you know of whether or not there are different types of scholarships? What types of financial?
I can speak to that.
Okay.
I happen to have a grandson who his mother struggles a little bit financially, and he had to fill out an application to iSpace.
Okay.
He had to create a badge. He had to tell what his interest was, and he was given a free scholarship to iSpace. So he is going a week this summer free of charge.
So, wow.
Yes.
So is that information going to be on our?
That was actually sent home with our students, I believe. We've sent it out more than one time, I believe.
I wonder if we could probably add that to this, if we can find the link in some way. I'm sure that's available
I
online.
think it
but we
might
could
be
probably
on
add
there.
that.
On iSpace, did I not add it? I thought I saw it.
Yeah, iSpace STEM.
Yeah, iSpace STEM.
Yeah, and I think the information about the campership is there.
Yes, that's a great point, because that, as the three of us talked about this, that is our biggest concern. Because even when I say just 2 to 3 hours a week for our families who are struggling and working more than one jobs, I know that's overwhelming. And to try to fit that in is difficult, and that's why I say, like, please reach out, and we will, when I say we, I think of our principals, our assistants, we will work with you to try to find things that work for you and your family.
Yeah. I mean, are there any scholarships that the Fairfield Foundation or Kiwanis offers that could, defray some of the cost? Putting them on the spot. So that's something that I'll talk to them after the board meeting about. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Any other comments?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
Anybody else?
Sure. I have a few.
Okay, Mr. Hare?
One, unfortunately, I did not have a quote for my colleagues, but I can guarantee you that I will have something appropriate to follow up with them, and I will share it with you. Two, sometimes we lose sight of the fact that parents are a child's first teacher, and some may even argue that the parents are the child's most important teacher. And sometimes parents lose sight of that from the standpoint that they give the child to us at school and they say, here, you educate. But it's a team process. Everybody needs to be involved. I like the emphasis on the family literacy. I've often said that there is no app to replace your lap. And so it's important for you to read with your children. The other thing that we all have something like this, and you can do a lot of literacy things on that as entertainment. If you want to work on spelling, change the passwords, that type of thing. And the other thing I would suggest is Altrusa of Hamilton is an organization that's been founded to help improve literacy. They typically give 3 small grants in the county every year. You can probably find them on the website, Altrusa of Hamilton. And they like spending money on things that help improve literacy. So if you have a specific target group, that might be the way to approach them, is say, look, we've got a group of kids that we want to target for summer reading. And you might come up with a few bucks there.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Well, thank you very much. This is great information. I can't wait to pass it on to my daughter. Thank you very much.